Hi, practicing friends.
Hey folks, how's it shaking?
We're going to share a tune with you that we've played at least several hundred times in our shows. That's just to say we've played it a lot. And it's one of Béla's originals called New South Africa that he plays with the Fleck tones, and he arranged for clawhammer banjo and three-finger style playing.
Well, you arranged it too.
I was a part of it for sure. But even though we've played it hundreds of times, we still have to practice it to a metronome regularly.
We'll just play the first couple of parts?
Yeah, let's play the first couple. To the metronome or not?
Yeah, well, first we played it, we'll play it without the metronome. We're really listening to each other. So it might be pushing one way or another, but the real key when you're playing together is more than being metronomic is that you're listening to each other. That's what really makes music good. But then just to tighten it up, since this is very metric music, really metronomic kind of music, we might practice it even a little slow, and we'll just put on the metronome and play the same thing along with it. So now, when we play to the metronome is the boss. Neither of us is the boss. So I try to fuse myself into the metronome. That's my way of thinking. I don't know, how do you think about it?
I do too. But the interesting thing is when Béla and I listen to the metronome, we've learned over time that we actually hear it really differently. Béla, you can explain why don't you explain how you play to a metronome and how you think of it?
Well, I try to lock it as if I'm making the sound. It's the boss, and it doesn't move, but I try to become one with the metronome.
And you try to also, when you're doing especially bluegrass music or music that you want to have drive.
Yeah.
You've told me in the past that you try to play a little bit out front of it, so it's almost like you're carrying it along. You're the steam engine, but it's pushing you forward. Well,
I would say that you can play out in front of it and be on the front end. Stay sharp. Don't let it, just because the metronome is on doesn't mean your quality of listening changes. In fact, it becomes more intense. It's a way to train yourself to listen to somebody beside yourself when you're playing. But I like to use it to stay sharp and also to keep from rushing. Because sometimes we find ourselves rushing when we're playing acoustic music.
And I often, when I listen to the metronome, and I learned this after starting to practice to the metronome with Béla, is that I listen to it differently. I often let it sort of lead me. And I try to place my notes very close to it, but I let it be the leader. So when we played to the metronome together, there's been many times, especially in the past, now we understand each other better, where we'd have to stop because it was like, wait, are you actually playing to the metronome? Because I'm playing to the metronome. And you were like, no, I'm playing to the metronome, So figuring out how to hear the metronome together is also really important. Or to think for yourself, if you're alone, how am I playing to the metronome? Not just put it on and play to it, but think about how am I doing it? Am I placing myself in front, on, a little bit behind? Where do I do that?
Yeah, and I guess it illuminates the difference between how we feel time, which is quite different. Abby's just more relaxed, and bluegrass music, we're always very much on the front edge of the beat. So finding a common ground, if we play along with the metronome and we get used to listening to the metronome, then we turn the metronome off and play together. We're really listening to each other in a whole different way. And our quality of listening goes up, and then we know we're not dragging or rushing because we've been playing along with that steady beat.
And sometimes when we sit to practice with the metronome, we'll say, how should we listen to the metronome right now? How are we going to play along with it? Are we going to be in front? Are we going to try to be locked right into it? And should we be paying more attention to the metronome as the leader, or should we be just kind of using it as a reference, but really listening to each other, you know?
Right.
So there's a lot of ways to play with your metronome.
Also, notice we had it going tick, 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 tick really fast. Some people like to practice with the metronome real slow. So in other words, it might be going tick, tick, same tempo, tick. And so that leaves all of the individual notes in the middle between the ticks up to you. And I like, since we're playing a lot of fast 16ths or eighth notes, depending on how fast it is. I like having all of them there to lock my timing in with, so that my rhythm becomes stronger and stronger on every single subdivision of the measure. But Victor Wooten, for instance, loves to practice with the metronome with huge spaces in it and see if he can keep the beat with these huge holes. So there's lots of great metronome work you can do.
So don't forget, play with your metronome. And thanks for listening to us give you our thoughts. Bye.
Bye.